Hello and welcome back to episode 8 of my CDDA tutorial series. I'm Icon and today we're going to get into the topic of firearms or general gunfighting, archery, the whole drill. I'm going to explain in this episode how you actually do fire a weapon, how you're going to get together with the ammunitions, all the good stuff. So we're picking up here for the sake of our demonstration here. Let's see, what do we have here? So the first thing that you will always be confronted with is that firearms in this game have extremely specific ammunition types. As you can see here, every single of these three guns has its own type of ammunition. So these here, they like their 9 on 19 millimeter JHP bullets. The FN57 wants these 5.7 on 28 millimeter rounds. You can see the ammunition type down here, and this is always going to be the type of bullet that you need. And yeah, this one uses the .40 Smith & Wesson JHP. So, as we can see here, I don't have any ammunition for these guns that I got right now. And this is going to be your situation with guns in the early game, like 90% of the time. You won't have access to ammunition as you really want to. The readout down here is also pretty important because that tells you how you will handle your gun. So things are pretty simple. So range damage goes without saying. Critical multiplier, yeah, that's the amount of times the damage gets multiplied when you crit. Maximum range, armor piercing, dispersion, that's the first thing that's a little bit interesting to mention, but shortly said, this does influence your accuracy. Since we're doing basics here, I don't want to go too deep into these topics. We're going to cover that later on, though. But you can effectively say the higher the recoil and the higher the dispersion, the less accurate your weapon is going to be, as a rule of thumb. More we won't be discussing in this episode. So there's also quite interesting to know how much capacity in the gun has. And the last thing that I want to mention before we actually start handling them is every gun has its own type of magazine, as you can see. So there's a 17-round magazine in the Beretta, and so on and so forth. For the operation of a gun, you will always need the gun itself, a magazine, and bullets. These are the three things that you need. If you have something like a bow or such, of course you only need arrows as the ammunition to wear. But this is pretty important to know that your guns will be pretty much useless without a magazine to put the bullets into. It's basically bullets go into magazine, magazine goes into gun. That's how it works in real life, and this is of course how it works in this game too. Alright. With that out of the way, we're going to pick up two guns here because two guns are better than one gun. And here's already one beautiful thing about guns. They are quite small. Well, handguns, they're quite small, so you can pack them into your backpack quite easily. So we're now going to go and look for some victims. We're going to enter town for that regard because I figured that it will be much more fun to actually have something to shoot at that's going to be fighting us. So, things about guns. First off, they're loud. They will produce... There's a praying mantis. Stay away from that. They will produce a lot of noise, and therefore you should always be aware of that before you use it, because when you pop a gun in the middle of a zombie horde, every zombie in the road will know where that noise came from. And in this game, monsters are curious. When they hear a sound, they go check it out, and therefore you get the idea. Use your guns wisely and according to the situation. And also, like I already mentioned, ammunition early on is quite scarce. So that means, yet again, use your use your firearms wisely, because it's quite easily happening that you will be out of bullets when you most need them. By the way, stuff like these wasps are really well beatable with guns. Oh, wait a sec, there's a wasp is right next to me. Jeez. So we're going to take the baton and pray to God. In that scenario, it was way too late for me to pick up the gun and go for that wasp. It was here. So when that happens and you're you're cornered like that, when the monster is in front of you and it's faster than you, just attack and hope for the best. In this scenario, actually, I had enough fighting power to hit that wasp twice before it actually poisoned me so hard that I wasn't able to fight it anymore. Lucky me. Alright, just applying some bandages to stop the bleeding, because bleedings can lead to infections, and therefore you better be careful with that. So yeah, that's the nastiness about forests. Sometimes enemies just stand in front of you, and there you don't get to do much about that. This is why I personally consider forests dangerous, and this is why this whole situation here is pretty rough, because we have to go through the forest into the town, because here's the wasp nest. So yeah, but we wanted to talk about guns, didn't we? But I did enjoy that little extra excursion into wasp killing, but never proactively go against wasps. That's my personal advice here. Okay, we're equipping the Beretta now, and we're storing that baton in the inventory. So here I already see that zombie back there is closing in. So when you want to fire your gun, you press the F key, fire wielded item, and then you get this wonderful menu here. This is how it works. So up here we see how we're firing. The firing mode can be changed, but if your weapon has a different firing mode. And here down here we see how we want to hit our enemies. The symbols here mean we have a great chance of hitting, a normal chance of hitting, and the greatest chance of hitting. So basically here when we shoot with our current aiming, that's just pointing the gun roughly in the direction of the zombie and pull the trigger, there's almost no chance of hitting. It only will need 80 moves to fire. So if we go for a regular aim, you see how this works, and the chances, the longer we take our time to aim, the higher the chances. You can also just press the point button. You see here, steady your aim, for 10 moves. And every time you do that, I'm doing this right now, you see here the steadiness, it increases. And with increasing steadiness, even a fast-fired bullet grows more and more precise. And basically you want to wait until it's something like that, until steadiness is full, and then fire. Pressing the F key, kablam, 24 damage. Let's do that again. And as you can see here, since the steadiness is not that low anymore, we just wait a little bit longer until it looks something like that, and then go for the precise aim again. And this time I'm going to go for another round of precise aim shot. And up here you see the current and maximum range. We're not going to stop aiming, and that's that. So we shot down the zombie with our little Beretta, and that's how firearms work in general in this game. Let's pulp that dude and keep going. So we're going to swap over to the FN57 here, so we can see a little bit of a difference there. And as you might have noticed, it took me quite some time to actually get the aim correct and everything. So let's go for that brainless zombie one more time. Same procedure, first pressing the button, the point here, to raise steadiness until the steadiness is somewhere in a decent amount. And here you see the enemy is pretty far away from me, and therefore it's not that much appealing. But there's another thing right next to me. There's a woodland white. So you can't just press tab to cycle your target, and as you see here, that thing is getting closer, and I have a pretty decent chance of hitting it with a precise aimed shot. So let's do this. And here you can already see that thing just went into my direction much faster than I could actually hope to land another shot. So now I can go for a quick shot with my current aim. That's a pretty decent chance. But now that thing is actually right in my face. So now I can decide if I either keep shooting or swap to a melee weapon. The enemy here I'm fighting is much faster than me. So I probably just feel safer with shooting that thing right into the face. So we're going to keep going here. And as you see here, the amount of damage and the accuracy was lowering while I was shooting. So here we go. Let's smash that thing. And also nicely visible now, the gunshots have attracted several other zombies. So now we'll have to take care of all the other zombies. If you check it out here, the zombie dogs are closing in. 3 of them. Regular zombies are closing in. Everybody heard those gunshots. Probably that woodland wight also got attracted by these gunshots. So that's a wonderful example why you should really be careful with firearms in this game in general, because you attract a lot of baddies with that. On the plus side, though, you really got to know that it's really a massive benefit in this game to be able to shoot your enemy before he gets close. The downside there is your weapons need ammunition, and therefore there's no endless supply of bullets for you here. So let's wait for a moment. The zombies are not going in here. And yeah, like I said, these items, they don't ammunitions, and therefore they are your safer way of approaching these enemies. But there's a lot of enemies in this game where it's actually smarter to go at them with... now they go upstairs finally. To go at them with firearms. For example, when enemies have really nasty effects on them, when they get close to you, it's a good reason to go for firearms. Or something like a wasp, for example, when you really want to make sure you want to get the alpha strike and get some damage into them. That's when I personally like to use them. So that fight was a little bit nasty. I didn't comment it, but it was pretty rough. So I'm bleeding from several wounds, and my right leg is also infected. If it's dark blue, just toss some antiseptic on it to make sure it doesn't give you any further trouble. I personally like to bandage wounded parts as much as possible, as long as I have the resources, and as long as as there is a good reason for that. So okay, a little bit waiting here for the pain. If pain gets too high, also, well, I don't have aspirin on me. Oh yeah, I do. Just chow down an aspirin and wait for like 30 minutes or such, and you will see the pain will lessen after a while. Okay, so there's, of course, another type of firearms that we're not owning right now, but let's see. That's bows. Bows need armor arrows, and they don't do that much noise. That's their biggest advantage, but bows also come, with their own set of disadvantages, and that's their ammunition is quite hard to manufacture overall. You have to put in a lot of work into arrow fletching, and the other thing is that you will need quite some fabrication skills if you want to produce a decent amount of ammunition and a good bow in general. So that's one thing. There are backgrounds in the game that allow you to start out with a really good weaponry and such. The hunter backgrounds provide you that. So if you are interested in going for a bow hunter or something like that, this is way to go if you want to experiment with these weapons. Because I personally think among the strongest firearms in this weapon are in this game are the silent ones. So speaking about silent ones, this is exactly the opposite of that. We got ourselves a shotgun, but let's use that. So shotguns are really devastating weapons, but as you see here, without steadiness, nothing works here either. But shotguns, they have a pretty low range when it comes down to accuracy, but on low distances, they do a tremendous amount of damage. Also, you might notice here that taking a steady stance with that weapon takes a while longer than with my pistol. But let's shoot. As you see here, there's a lot more damage in that thing. And with a precisely aimed shot, I'm getting a lot more chances to hit there. Let's gain our complete steadiness. Here we go. So as you might notice, your precise aim always tries to wait until you have full steadiness and then you shoot. So I didn't hit this time. Well, as you notice here, I'm not hitting because I'm actually hitting the car and not the zombie. So yeah. But let's do what you only can do with shotguns here. Let's go for that. But yeah, in situations like these, I personally prefer a melee weapon over shotguns or other firearms in general. In this game, it's really important that you consider the type of weapon for the situation. Because as you might have noticed here, while the enemies were swarming at me, the shotgun got less and less effective. Because you need to take into account the amount of time that it takes to shoot there. And clobbering these guys down with my melee weapon is a lot easier, doesn't need any ammunitions whatsoever, and I even get wounded a lot less. So it's a real misconception to assume that firearms are what you should use as your standard weapon. But there's one thing that I would need to say there. My character is really bad at marksmanship and all these other stats, so there's of course a lot of increase in terms of damage and accuracy the better you get with these weapons. So, as with everything in this game, practice makes not only perfect, but also increases your damage a lot. Jokes aside, firearms are wonderful in this game. You really should not try to beat the game without, because they're just too good to pass, but also they are not the ideal choice for every situation that you might encounter there. And you might already have noticed that I am fighting right now against an army. This Dissoluted Devourer here is actually one really big enemy. That's a tier 2 zombie. Basically, the longer you play the game, the worse the zombies get. And as you see here, that thing really is actually killing my character right now. And I'll leave that as a lesson why you should really not go for fire. Oh, I actually survived. Why you really should not go for firearms blindly. This is actually a wonderful situation to show you why you should not do that. I barely survived, which is okay. I'm actually pretty surprised that I did survive. And I guess it's pretty clear. I think I made my point there. So what's left to say about guns in general? They are among the most powerful weapons in game. You will find extremely powerful stuff if you ever get your hands on stuff like assault rifles and sniper rifles and all these really nifty things. You will notice how good these things can be in the long run, but without a certain strategizing, these weapons hurt you more than they will then you will benefit from them, because, you know, as you've noticed, the zombies, they are really vicious when you're making too much noise there. And that's why we're going to not continue into that direction too much anymore. And instead, I'm going upstairs here into that safe apartment and grab as much as I can here in terms of food from that freezer. Whenever I go into town, I really like to grab up as much food as I can. Because, you know, this stuff all goes bad sooner or later. And picking it up is getting you somewhere. But as you might have already noticed, my stats here are extremely low. And my character is in an extremely bad shape. So I'm just waiting for a couple of hours here to regain my health a little bit, and especially the speed. When you're down like that because you made mistakes like I did here, it's also a pretty solid decision to just lay down and try to sleep or wait for a couple of hours until you are a little bit better here. Let's eat some old cheeseburgers. Yum. And keep sleeping, or try to. While you're just waiting for to get better there, you will see the pain lowers. You're slowly increasing your stats again. If your wounds are bandaged, they will grow better. If you press 5 during that time, you can just interrupt. I'll make a pause here to eat something in between. Let's have an orange, because that's also quenching a bit. Also here in the papaya, my dude is thirsty. So let's get in something that's quenching thirst a little bit. And alright. Let's also be aware of the fact that I lost clothing here. I lost my jeans. And I'm just standing here in boxer shorts, so we might be actually considering putting on that pair of jeans here. Combat can destroy your clothing. That's just something that happens every time, I actually want to say. And here we go, oatmeal. Well, cat food, you can also pick that up. Salt, red sauce, artificial sweeteners. Practically, food is always a good thing to pick up. Bird eggs, and especially the food in towns, pick it up while it's still good. That's the gist of it. Okay, let's go down there and zoom out again. And get back into our town. I really was sure that I would die this time. But I didn't. Okay, so I think I made my point about guns there. Of course, I didn't really play out my cards smartly here. I kind of like did a bad move on purpose, and if you got the feeling as if guns aren't as good as they looked like here, I did a bad job, because guns are actually really something you will want to have for the nasty critters, which you just don't want to get close to. And there's a lot of nasty critters in this game which you don't want to get close to. And that's why I personally think every character in CDDA should at least have some kind of firearm and know how to use it. I really can't think of any downside that you would have by owning and using some kind of ranged weapon in this game. Because with all roguelikes, it's like that. There are enemies that are more easily beatable in melee, and there's enemies which are more easily beatable in ranged, and that's why you would want to keep it like that. Now, let's drop all that food that we plundered there, and let's call this expedition a success for today. I know it wasn't really that much of a success. I almost died, but that's part of the game, you know. It's part of the game experience. So with all these items here dropped on the floor, and start a fire now. And, well, if you have new items in your stockpile, sometimes you can just create new foods there. So the eggs, for example, we can create boiled eggs out of that. And let's roast some more almonds. Preparing your own food in this game is vital for your survival, and increasing your skills with that as well. Okay, so to sum it up again, with guns, be careful, they are loud. Be careful, you need ammo, and ammo is hard to come by. What I didn't mention as of yet, ammo is of course acquirable in... Let's see if I find one. In gun shops. Sometimes I find gun stores, well, they look like this here. You have to check out all these buildings to find gun stores. And in gun stores you have a chance to find ammo, guns themselves, magazines, and most importantly, gun making kits. There are tools to create your own ammunition. If you ever get your hands on these, well, I can't say that it's easy to craft ammo in this game. There's still a lot to it. You need a lot of resources and a lot of crazy other things, but the gist of it is you can create your own ammo if you have the necessary tools. And that's why gun stores are very, very attractive in this game. Okay, so that sums it up for this episode. There's not much more that I want to say about that. Check out the ammo section if you want to know more about that. Fabrication skill and the respective firearm skill help you there. And, well, I didn't mention it here, but I just want to cover it real quickly. These ranged skills, they all help you for in terms of accuracy with those guns, and these sub skills, they increase the effectiveness, accuracy decline, and range, and yeah, accuracy and damage, just like with the other melee skills. You're basically getting better at the weapons that you use. Not much more to that. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Drop your comments down below. If you feel as if I missed out a spot, or if there's a question, just ask away. Leave a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed, and of course, consider subscribing to my channel. Daily content popping up there. I'd be delighted to have you among my subscribers. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time. Bye-bye.